good afternoon. Whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
The Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast.
Home again, home again. Oh, I'm so glad to be home again.
What do you mean? Houston was great, man.
Houston was, no offense to Houston people, but I don't like your city. I don't like it.
No offense, but I hate your city.
I didn't say hate. I said I don't like. There's a big difference.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I
listen,
can translate that. I can translate what don't like means.
we ate at a couple pretty cool places, but let's be honest. You have all these huge highways that you have pretty much all closed, half of them closed down, and it's just it takes forever to get everywhere. Am I incorrect?
It was a lot of driving. But it was
fun.
It was fun, and to your point, it was a cool weekend. We saw some wrestling. We ate some food. We hung out with some.
That sounds so. Yeah. We watched some wrestling. We ate some food.
That's what we do, man.
We eat the food. That's what we do. That's definitely what we do. I like to call last week the Houston audio debacle. It was so difficult for me to record that podcast and get it straight. There were so many variables to recording that podcast that it didn't come out very well, and
even harder for people to listen to it, probably.
Yeah, I apologize for the audio issues. I jacked up the levels with Chris and Chuck. Now Nikamura, he's got no excuse. He was using the exact same mic as me. He just wasn't talking up. That's on him.
He didn't want to get cheek to cheek with you. That was the problem.
Oh, cheek to schmeek. So
okay, cheek to
cheek to schmeek. So I like going into these podcasts and having a hot take, and it was very difficult to choose the hot take. So do I complain about the fact that Braun Strowman is now the Intercontinental Champion, or do I complain about the fact that I don't understand why WWE continues to create tag teams like the quote-unquote broserweights and put them over a tag team that you know is going to continue to be a tag team? Oh no, wait a second. AEW. Yep, that's it. Britt Baker, you're horrible.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised you went on that angle.
What?
And you didn't even bring up the dog food angle this week.
Oh, I mean the dog food angle is fine, but you know what? Okay, so here's the thing, and this is where I am after Houston. I literally, and I had a couple conversations with you about this. At this point, I just don't get it anymore. I feel so disconnected from the WWE universe because I don't understand it anymore. I almost, and this is not me being a hater. This is me just asking the question. It's just asking the question. Why is somebody like Becky Lynch so popular? Like, make me understand. I mean, she was so over when we were there, and I just don't get it.
But I think it's starting to deflate. So Corey Graves talked about this a little bit on his podcast, but I think we're starting to see the crowd turn on Becky a little bit. Now, it's very slight because, to your point, she was still very over in Houston. But I think people are starting to get to your point, which is they're just tired of it. It's the same bit. It's the same gimmick. She really hasn't done anything new recently. So maybe there's a change coming. Does anybody feel like she's starting to get a little more heelish? Not where she's, this faced heel or however, you want to call it. I feel like she's getting closer to just being a straight heel recently.
Maybe. I mean, my deal with her is that it's like it feels forced to me whenever she starts to do the heel stuff. It feels forced because you're already past the point of no return with her. There's no salvaging her. In my mind, like you have to let her burn out before you can rebuild her up or get somebody to eclipse her. Now, I'm not saying that person exists. I mean, I would say that Rhea Ripley at the moment is tapping into that original thing that got Becky Lynch over, but is not quite there yet. So, I don't know, man. I guess I just don't get that. I don't get Roman Reigns. I mean, even to a certain extent, I don't get Daniel Bryan. You know, I mean, these are, it's not to say that these aren't good wrestlers. Well, no, I mean, I will say that about Becky Lynch. I'm sorry, but she's not even close to the best women's wrestler in the division. I mean, I actually believe that Charlotte Flair happens to be like one of the best wrestlers that they have, period, because she's just like the full package. And that's where like I get confused because there's just so many things missing with like the wrestling ability and the timing and the little things that she does that are for me watching on television like pull me out, like so like they pull me out of my belief in the wrestling as being quote unquote real. Does that make sense?
It does. See, you rattled off a few wrestlers, and they all have like counterpoints. Like they all have people that they're going up against that are building them into the popularity that they are.
Sure.
Roman Reigns right now has Baron Corbin, who I think is the ultimate, heel. He makes everybody look like a bigger face than they can be. He's the best. You have Daniel Bryan right now he's going up against the Fiend, but before that he was going up against Kofi. Before that he was going up against the Miz. All guys that can really make him either more heel or more face. Very good counterpoints. But when you finally talk about Becky Lynch, does she really have a counterpoint? Does she really have somebody that she can, match up to that'll push her that way? And I feel like she doesn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem is, I think it comes back to the way that they've built her, because they've wanted to build her so strong. I don't know. What do you think, Chuckles?
It honestly just feels that they have built her up so much that even though she does lose at times, she is like almost untouchable.
I hate that.
And yeah, it's not kind of annoying. It is annoying. I mean, it's one thing to bring someone up to the apex of, their storyline, let's say, but I feel like the storyline is just going on forever. And it's getting tired, it's getting old. Like, okay, she beat Asuka at, Royal Rumble, great, okay, but like even before that I feel like she hadn't really, I mean, and we might have talked about this in Houston, but like when was the last time she really, put the women's title on the line before the match against Asuka? I mean, I mean, if I really, really thought about it, I probably could remember, but like off the top of my head, just like, picking my brain, I can't remember. I feel like that goes for like all the titles. I feel like we don't have, I mean, except at 24/7, which is just, crazy nonsense all the time, which is lovely. But like, I feel like a lot of the times we don't get enough title matches, it feels.
That's funny though. The 24/7 title, like you mentioned, the craziness nonstop. Almost feel like I want to call the 24/7 title at this point like this weird cop-out title, where it's like, this is the title that we're going to be bumping around all the time, and that's going to be like funny and exciting, and you're going to not pay attention to all the stuff that we're not doing.
Yeah, and it also feels, I mean, when you had your hot take, your hot take going off at the beginning, I thought you were going one way. My hot take for this past week, and it was when I was watching SmackDown, but then when I looked over all of the other matches that kind of happened this week, except for probably NXT, I was an AEW, but just speaking strictly WWE here, I was like, wow, I've seen all these matches on SmackDown, like except for the tag, the four-way tag, but like I feel like I've seen all these like numerous times. Like, why is everything this, like, are they trying to like perfect this? Like, are have all these weeks just been practice, and like, we're getting ready to have these one more time and one more time and one more time. It's getting old and tiring, and like a lot of the storylines I feel are just like stagnant almost.
They let them get that way, really.
Which is the opposite of what it usually is coming out of the Rumble, right? Like normally coming out of the Rumble, we have new storylines, we have new build-up, we have something that's going to build towards WrestleMania, and I feel like, to Chuck's point, SmackDown was like a repeat, man. Like every match was just a match we either saw at the Rumble or saw in weeks past, and I guess we finally got the payoff to the whole Roman Reigns and King Corbin thing, but
I thought
mean,
we
are
got the
gonna
payoff at the Rumble. Are you talking about at SmackDown we got the payoff?
Did you see how it ended?
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that, but it's just like, it's how many payoffs do you need before a payoff is a payoff? Like I'm agreeing, right?
74. It's a large number, apparently.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I won't be watching SmackDown for 74 more episodes. Oh, sorry, 72.
Yes, because you saw the first two. I like, if they don't move on from this dog food angle, I like, somebody needs to be fired. Like, it's beyond the people that just stepped down from the higher office in WWE. They need to fire some writers, because this dog food angle it needs to stop. It was really good the first time, and obviously you had to have a payoff the second time. But now it's like, okay, you brought out big old bowls of dog food that, like, what are we doing? Like, it was good one time for an angle, but you're burying it, and it's not a good angle. The dog food is not a gimmick.
Yeah, there's nothing enjoyable about that angle at all to me. I mean, except for like the only thing I mean, going into that Rumble, it was fun to root for Baron Corbin. It was a very fun crowd because there were so many Roman Reigns fans, but like kind of scattered throughout were all the people that were like, burn the knee, like, like us. It was fun. But after that match, I don't know that I feel it's so weird that you have like the show after where everything's a repeat, because that's every major pay-per-view. I feel like they have the match the night before and then they go to the Raw and they have the match again. That's just what they do. The problem is have you moved forward the story? Like when you look through all those matches, have you moved through the story? You have McIntyre come out and he beats the OC to put himself over more. Did he need to be put over more? Question. I mean, and then you basically do the exact same thing with Charlotte Flair. Flair just won. Does she need to be put over more? You have Mysterio fighting MVP, which don't even get me started on like throwaway matches with veteran people that you're not even going to use anymore.
Well, that was a farewell match. That was
Yeah.
MVP getting one last match with Rey Mysterio, who apparently is like his son's favorite wrestler. So that's the only one of the what you just listed. I'm like, all right, I'll go take a break. I'll go pee. I don't have to watch this match. This is
Yeah.
for them. This isn't for anybody else.
You have Black over local talent.
That's a missed opportunity.
What
man.
are you? I mean, why?
The Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy thing has been so good, and if we don't get back to that,
We're not.
like that's the one match that I don't mind watching over and over and over again. And they have to get back to it, but because they gave the tag titles to Rollins and Murphy, it doesn't seem like we're going to go back to that feud anytime soon.
I don't think so, because if you the way that promo went, where he's like, I used to let people, come pick fights with me. Now I'm going to go pick fights. It sounds like, we're opening up an avenue for Aleister Black to go find another story. So
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I guess, and then Rowan, I'm telling you, I'm at the point now with Rowan where it's just like, for the love of God, if that's not Mae Young's hand baby, then there's nothing that can salvage that storyline unless that is what it is. And I mean that serious.
It's the goat head, man. It's got to be the goat head.
And I'm sure that it probably is the goat head. I think that makes all the sense in the world. It's not worth all this pain. Like, what is this? All for that.
What troubles me about Rowan is, didn't you enjoy his other character where he was like a little more like intelligent and having more time on the mic, kind of that quasi Daniel Bryan save the world Rowan, where he was going up against Roman Reigns? Like, I enjoyed that Rowan. I actually was getting behind that one. This one, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, unless this leads to something bigger for him, like, I mean, I honestly would like to see him join the Fiend then, like, and just do something with him again. Like, it's just boring. Like, Rowan local talent boring, Black local talent boring. I Mysterio MVP, yeah, I get it. I can even get the McIntyre over the OC thing, because what's going to happen with AJ Styles being out for a little while is I feel like the OC is going to get buried here and not going to be on TV.
Probably,
in my opinion.
That sounds accurate. I think the shining star of the night, as much as I didn't think it was going to be that, was Edge and Orton.
Yeah.
At the very end.
The only good thing.
And I even I wore my Randy Orton shirt to work yesterday because as much as I dislike Randy Orton's character, I actually love that angle. Like, I loved him coming back, welcoming Edge back, being all friendly, and then just immediately turning on him and playing an angle where no, I'm trying to get you out of the company again. I'm trying to re-injure your injuries. And the crowd was feeding into it. They were appalled. It was great.
Setting up the big WrestleMania match of Randy Orton versus Edge.
My thing was the original plan was Edge, AJ Styles.
I think that's what I heard.
I'm not happy that AJ's out, but if it stops us from getting that match and it gets us Edge, Randy Orton, I think that's a better match.
Well, there's more story to it. I don't know what they could have done, but this one obviously has the better story.
Yeah. It's let AJ Styles wrestle AJ Styles people. I mean, everybody wants to come back and be like, oh, well, it's a dream match, Edge versus AJ Styles. It's well, yeah, but just because it's a dream match doesn't mean it's going to be good, because all you're doing is talking about one-off matches that have no story to them. The story is so much more important than just the one-off great match. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know. I mean, I think everybody needed to take a shot too. I said story a couple times.
It's a couple shots. I was drinking. Sorry, I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Here, so I want to go back as we always
Sure.
do. So Chuck mentioned going with the Fiend, and I don't know if we've talked about this, and it's the most obvious thing that if we haven't talked about it, shame on us. What if like Ramblin' Rabbit is in that cage? What if this whole
Dude, that's
time?
exactly what I was thinking.
What if the whole time Rowan's carrying around Ramblin' Rabbit? And that's what people are getting freaked out about because obviously, you got to be crazy to be like associating yourself with the Fiend's people, right?
That's how you save it. That's great. It's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be really good. Good job, boys. That was a good thought process by all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes total sense in regards to would Ramblin' Rabbit bite you? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So again, it's all the setup. It's like, it's funny to me that it's almost how they talked long term about how the segment has to go. That's why I think he always comes and he always pulls out that like the stairs or whatever. I think the purpose behind that is because somebody has to operate whatever is going to be in the cage eventually. And so he's just doing something so people like don't think about it. And so eventually they can have some type of setup where it's like, okay, now this person can like be under the ring and crawl under and operate Ramblin' Rabbit with their hand or whatever.
That's actually a good thought there. I didn't even think of that. Like I feel like everybody was always wondering like why he's pulling out the stairs, but I mean, yeah, that kind of makes sense because you could definitely kind of hide someone under there to get an arm or something in it. You could manipulate the stairs a little bit or something. So yeah, I mean, it could definitely happen.
Well, and then at the end of the day, like, who cares if the audience sees somebody putting their hand through there? It's more or less, can we do this in a way that we can get a good camera shot to then show that it doesn't look like somebody's there?
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of stuff that, when you're watching live, you see before there's even a payoff, and it's just kind of like you have like your little mini pop about the thing that's getting ready to happen, and the people at home have no idea.
I got an interesting take on Raw, and I thought about this yesterday. So we're still doing this whole Lana Liv Morgan thing, right?
Yeah.
And they had a match. And Liv Morgan, showed that she's still a decent wrestler in her new gear, which I like her new gear. And she has a new finisher, which is cool. I think we talked about that a little bit.
I like that. The flatliner, I think, is what they call it.
So Lana wrestled.
Yes.
And is Lana better suited being a wrestler and getting squashed? Like being the jobber wrestler for the women's division? Like, wouldn't she be a better character if she had matches all the time, lost all the time, but she was enhancing the faces because she was that annoying heel that they were just shutting up and everybody could get put over? So are we misusing Lana as a mouthpiece to Bobby Lashley and really should be using her as a wrestler, dare I say, which is not something I've said in the past, but letting her wrestle and letting her be a jobber to these wrestlers?
Well, yeah, because she's done it twice now, and it's kind of worked both times. She did it in the Rumble, because she starts coming out, and it's almost Vicky Guerrero-ish, where she grabs a mic and she just starts yelling into the mic. And I think it was interesting how we talked about her definitely not being Vicky Guerrero a while back, but how she kind of has tapped into that the last couple times.
She's not as good. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. No way.
It's the style she's trying to like put out there, but again, you said it, the Rumble, she was able to get Liv over and get the boos after she pulled Liv out, and then on Monday night, like And that's without Lashley and Rusev in the mix whatsoever. So let's just keep them apart. Let's let Rusev do his own thing. Let Lashley go away, and let's let them just kind of do their own thing. And maybe you could put Liv over. Maybe you could put other wrestlers over. Maybe that's a way to help Becky get back to being a face, or even get Flair over. There's just other opportunities I see there of letting Lana wrestle, which is something we've always said, don't let Lana wrestle.
I don't. The only thing I don't like about the separation of that story is they need to I mean, it's just like they committed so much to those two being married. I'm not saying they need to necessarily finish it out, but if you want them to stop it abruptly, I need something. I need some form of like storyline to stop it abruptly.
Yeah, there's no finish to it. It's just kind of hovering in midair right now, especially if she continues to wrestle like Liv every once in a while. But I mean, do you really think that there is something that the WWE can do right now that will save Becky Lynch and turn her back into a face?
You need a heel. Like, you need a Baron Corbin. You need some heel to get her back over. And is it Shayna Baszler? Is she a heel, or is she one of these heels from NXT that's going to get cheered more than Becky?
I think that's the problem on Raw is you have a number of women who are way too over, who are technically bad guys, like Asuka. Asuka is a bad guy. Charlotte Flair is a bad guy, but the crowds love them so much that like you can't do it with them, and I don't think you can do it with. I, to your point, I mean, maybe Shayna is the only person that you could do it with, because I mean, there are people that are like us that in the beginning hated Shayna Baszler because she couldn't wrestle, and she's still a little bit, we've talked about this, personally, still a little choppy and unfinished in the ring, but there are a lot of people that, who watched NXT that are big proponents of her. So she could possibly be the only one, but I mean, is there really anybody else on Raw that you could see them doing that with?
The problem is it's too late. It's too late. Like Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is past the point of no return. She has become, and I don't mean this in an offensive way. It's just a matter of fact thing. She is like pre-leukemia Roman Reigns. No, how is that offensive? Like, do you understand what I mean by that?
I totally understand.
Yeah.
What you mean.
So what I mean by that is, like, right now, Roman Reigns does not get booed nearly as much.
No.
And while Becky isn't getting booed, she's past the point of no return. Once you put a good heel up against her, something that is actually a compelling story, so either a Ronda Rousey or a Shayna Baszler, something like that, the crowd is going to, at least half of the crowd is going to turn on her and never look back.
So does she just have to go away for a little while?
No, you don't need to do anything. Quite honestly, let her be old Roman Reigns. It worked. We used to always complain about Roman Reigns, but at the end of the day, it's the example of, people hated Roman Reigns. That doesn't mean they didn't like Roman Reigns, right? It's like kayfabe hate.
Yeah.
Just own it.
Yeah, just own it. Becky Lynch, you're gonna be hated. Just own it. And so for me, it's like I'll appreciate a little bit more when she starts to get booed a lot more by about half the fans, and then I'll be like, all right, now we're in our sweet spot. Right now, when everybody just cheers her, I'm just kind of like confused. I'm like the guy who's going, hey, no offense, people that really like her, but she can't wrestle very well. She does these weird things where, okay, instead of doing like typical wrestlers 101, like I'm going to kick out to the ref by just keeping her eyes open and looking straight up in the air. or, squeezing the hand when she's been hit. She'll be like, I'm okay. And like, you'll hear her over the camera say, I'm okay, to the ref. And it's like, what are you doing? It's the little things like that drive me crazy about her, with her being so over. Because it's like, are you not watching her? Are you not seeing that stuff?
It's funny how I feel that her and Rollins kind of, like, WWE tried to get them to go to the heel side kind of closely about the same time. Do you guys agree?
Well, yeah, but they were deliberate with Rollins, and they've been subtle with Lynch. Now, hey, what about that? What if you had Lynch just join Seth Rollins in the ring at some point?
That's the only
I would
way.
be okay with it.
That's the only way to turn her straight heel. You throw her with Rollins.
There's no like persona out there to push her to the heel with the crowd, in the crowd's view, on the women's side. But to your point, if you use Rollins to push her to heel, she'll be shot like a rocket to the heel side, because she's aligning herself with one of the bigger heels right now in the Monday Night Messiah. I mean, I think that's a great idea. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, like, I feel like they both of their storylines kind of took a turn at about the same time. Seth Rollins took that hard right, and like Becky Lynch took that little bear to the right, and it's just taking too long to get her all the way over to, where he is. But I mean, that's a great point. I mean, and you want to know what? Rollins and Murphy and AOP, I mean, we don't really have many quote unquote factions now, but you want to know what? Do it. Like, get a female wrestler into it, so that, we have, okay, here are the 5 or 6 really, really bad guys. These are the ones you're supposed to always boo and hate, and then get them up against, I mean, Owens and Joe. I like I like them both as wrestlers. I like them as a tag team. They're cool, but they're not the people in my mind that can go against that Rollins, Murphy, AOP thing and like keep it going, because Owens and Joe are, in my mind, they're more heelish to me.
You know what I think is interesting, and maybe it's taking a little bit of a play out of the AEW book, because to your point, they're not doing these really, really big factions. Like, so if the Rollins faction is as it is right now, and then you add Becky Lynch, that's a lot of people in one story, and that's probably a good thing for WWE, because it's probably an easier story for them to write. And so if you did the same angle with that group as you did with, like, let's say Undisputed. Now, here's the problem, though. You have to have Rollins and Murphy drop the titles. But if you had Rollins somehow getting the main title, Murphy getting a mid-card title, AOP having the tag titles, and Becky Lynch having the women's title, and they're just all super heelish, that will be a much more compelling story than you've got going in on Raw right now, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and you could definitely do that. I mean, I could easily see the Viking Raiders taking the titles back from Rollins and Murphy at some point, and then having AOP beating the Viking Raiders, a month later or something, to get the tag team belts on them, in which Rollins and Murphy will still be happy because they're all teamed up together. So it's kind of like one of those things where you don't care who the champions are, as long as you guys are the champions.
I think the easiest way to book it is to have Becky Lynch out at the ring cutting a promo, and the quote unquote faces attack Rollins and all of the heels and kind of interrupt the promo, and they start fighting down towards the ring, and it looks like the faces are going to have the upper hand, and then Becky Lynch comes in with a kendo stick and just starts beating the hell out of all the face guys or whatever. Like, easy peasy. I mean, will that get boos or will that get cheers? That's the question.
It'll probably get cheers.
So you have to do. So you have to
in
do something.
Bizarro
You have to.
land.
You have to have Becky Lynch then cross the line and do something very heelish. So like, I don't know, tacking a body part, putting a limb inside of a chair and having her just like
Nut shot.
That's
nut
what
shot.
I was gonna say, crotch shot.
Yeah.
Crotch shot from behind, right on like a who the big face is that they're going against. Yeah, definitely.
But the problem is right now that's like Samoa Joe. It was probably Samoa Joe.
I know, yeah, I know. It's so hard.
Nope. You're all wrong.
Who is
So
it?
we're not going to get the heel turn anytime soon because right now, obviously, we're doing the Edge Randy Orton thing. But once we're done with the Edge Randy Orton thing, you do Seth Rollins Edge and you do Becky Lynch from behind, nut shot to Edge. That's how you get Becky to go heel.
Yeah, they're not going to have Becky Lynch go heel. Why are we even talking about this?
I don't
Because
know.
that's what we do.
We talk about Bizarro World that doesn't exist.
This is when we're trying to like make Raw get like super ratings again, and it's just never going to be there because they just don't want to do it. You know,
we just want to make Raw better, and they don't ever want to listen to us and continue on with the same dribble every week.
it's like, let's do, matches to qualify people to go to Super Showdown, which is a thing that nobody in the WWE universe in the States even likes anymore. Stop going to Saudi Arabia.
Or
mucho money, man.
I know believe me, I know it's mucho money.
Paid. Or let's have people declare themselves for the Royal Rumble, be on the list to be an entrant in the Royal Rumble, and then never see said entrant in the Royal Rumble and going, wait, so-and-so was supposed to be in the Royal Rumble, but we're already at 30. Where the hell are they?
Yeah.
Well, I think there was something. Did we? So somebody will have to comment or send us a tweet, or I'll have to go search it. And I haven't gone back and watched the Rumble yet, so shame on me. But because we were there live, we didn't see any of the backstage interviews or anything, or the pre-show interviews. Somebody mentioned it, or I might have saw it somewhere, that maybe Rusev and Lashley got into a fight or something before the Rumble and got like in the parking lot. So they disqualified themselves from the Rumble. And that's how we ended up with 2 spots being empty.
What about Murphy?
I don't know what happened with Otis and everybody else, but
yeah, there were more than that. There were probably about 5 or 6.
That's the thing. I don't know how many were explained or not. That's what it comes down to. I'll have to go back and watch the Rumble, which I've been meaning to do, because obviously live it was one thing, a production nightmare for us watching it live. Fun though, fun to be around the crowd, and we related it to a really big watch party, which was a lot of fun. But
there's a watch party where I can't see the television. Hey, get out of the way! I can't see.
There wasn't even on. There's nothing to see.
It would be like, I don't know, you would have, for the listeners, like, to be there, it was like this. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, this person's music hits. And then on all of the boards everywhere, I mean, this is a huge place we're in, Minute Maid Park. And on all the boards, it just says their name and plays their music. And it's not till they get all the way to the ring that it even flips over and you can start saying stuff again. So you don't get to see them walk in or anything like that. So like, Edge came back, and it wasn't until like, okay, to micro, something that I saw that you guys didn't see. And by you guys, it was, I mean, like the listeners, if you guys watched it, was I saw the spear that what Ziggler took, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
They cut away from that, apparently. And people were freaking out that they cut away in that. But guess what? You guys got to see the whole damn Edge entrance. We saw none of it. I didn't see it till I saw it on social media or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They had these huge screens that they just didn't utilize. That's what it comes down to. They didn't utilize them the right way live. But I mean, again, atmosphere in there was crazy.
It's loud.
I mean, It was very loud. I've never been anywhere near that large of a crowd at a live event. So it was fun in that sense, but I think we all agree we're kind of over it and we're kind of like, all right, we want to go to the Rumble every year, but that's too many people.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling. Like there's a different feeling when you're part of 15 to 17,000 people than when you're part of 42,000 people. I mean,
On
you feel disconnected a little bit from the
on just
match.
think about how you would feel when it's double that, like I believe it was at like MetLife Stadium for WrestleMania
That-
last year. I mean, they had 70,000, 80,000 there.
like they
It's
love
too
their
much.
numbers. They love their
It's too
numbers,
much.
right? They're so in love with their numbers. Oh, we sold this many, we did this many. But what about that person that's all the way at the very top? Like, what is your experience like
Binoculars.
at the Royal Rumble or at WrestleMania?
The thing is, they're there though. They bought the ticket and they
They
still
are.
came in. Like, hey, this is what we talked about, right? Charge more money. I will gladly pay a higher price for the ticket if it's in a smaller venue, because smaller venues equal better experience for the crowd because you enjoy the match, you enjoy the crowd, and it's honestly the bigger memories come from the smaller venues. Yes, the bigger numbers come from the bigger venues, but the biggest pops and the biggest memories we have, I think, are from the smaller venues that are created. I keep harping on the John Cena return as number 30 in that Royal Rumble, but I'm not the only one. If you go on Twitter right now, there's a ton of people who always relate that as one of their favorite Rumbles they've ever seen. And that was from a smaller venue. The bigger venues are great and it's loud and everything, but you're really not creating a great moment. You're just creating noise. So
And one more thing to mention about the Royal Rumble. I am saddened to say that I have been dethroned as
Oof,
the pick
badly.
champion.
Dethroned with prejudice.
Um, Only by two.
I
Only
mean,
by
two's a lot, though. Two's a
I
lot when you're
know.
talking about in a realm of like 8 picks.
Well,
Nikamura. Whoo!
Nakamura was 7 of 8. He beat me for the pick championship, but I will be back. I will return. And going on Nakamura's previous history of picks, he'll be back down to getting 1 or 2 or 3 right in no time. So I'm not that worried.
Yeah, don't worry about Nikamura. He's not even paying attention. He's still looking for his beer.
It was an absolute fluke.
love that.
Woo! Inside jokes, baby. Inside jokes. I'll know if he listens this week because I'll get a text message about that one.
Yes.
Good stack of pancakes, though. Good stack of pancakes.
Oh yeah, good
We
pancakes.
found that.
For sure.
So let's before we leave the Royal Rumble, let's talk about Brock Lesnar, and let's talk about how much we normally dislike Brock Lesnar, but how good of a job he really did in that Royal Rumble, making us all just get into the match, get into those first 13 or something. Like, I've never experienced something like that where the entire crowd is into every single person coming in that ring, hoping that maybe they be the one to put out Brock. And the Kofi moment, and I don't know if this translated to TV, but that Kofi moment when Kofi was in the ring and we were all just hoping, hoping so much that Kofi could figure it out and eliminate Brock. He did a great job. Like, Lesnar put over every single person that came in that ring, whether he was, crushing them or whether he was making it seem like they were going to maybe get close to having a chance. It was really good job by a guy that normally is a part-time wrestler, but for 2020 right now, the dude's been everywhere. He's been showing up on every show in wrestling.
He was so tired as well, and like maybe that was just some of the gimmick or maybe it was reality, but I mean, I don't know if they showed it on TV, but there were times where he had his hands on his knees and he was huffing and puffing like, "Oh man, here we go. Here's another one coming down." Like, "Okay, let's go."
I think that's him being the character, though. Don't you? Like he has to be in good shape, or he could go,
Yeah,
for a while.
I would hope so. I mean, the dude is a beast.
And again, like he was having fun with it. There's a couple of good images or videos out there of him like dancing to MVP's music, which is hilarious. Like he was having a good time.
It was an interesting, I think WWE, they're not going to, but they should learn a lesson from the Royal Rumble, which is to say the gimmick of somebody being impossible to beat on a long run does not work. But in the short term, it works very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, and for as much crap as I give Brock Lesnar, through I don't know the last couple of years, I I loved it because it was exactly what Chris said. Man, you were just hoping that next guy coming out was gonna throw him out, and man, did they get close a couple of times, and he just came back and just brutalized them.
Man, then I went back and watched this clip, but when he got Claymored and he just laid outside like he got hit by a car, and he sold that Claymore so freaking well. Like that to me, that little thing there, Brock Lesnar, one of the biggest, baddest guys in WWE, selling a Claymore and just laying outside the ring like he was out cold and then stumbling around. Like that was a really good freaking, like, I don't know why we're surprised by this. The guy's been around forever, but like it was good. Like
Well,
I can't take it away from him.
I feel like the play-by-play was great because, like, men's rumble starts. Here comes number 2. He throws number 2 out. Chuck turns around, looks at both of us and says, "Is this what it's going to be for the next, hour?" And we're all like cringe, like, yeah, well, yeah, we don't want to see this for the next hour. I could have watched it the whole way through. It was
Yes.
so awesome, and we were so wrong about it.
We were. Because we were always saying that why, what are we doing? Why are we announcing Brock as number 1? This is a terrible idea. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, and then I mean, because the reality of the situation was after Brock was eliminated, I mean, this really big pop, but then the back half of the Rumble, wasn't very good.
Yeah, the payoff with the Claymore was great. Obviously I think they got him out of the ring because they needed the edge pop and they wanted that to be the story in the second half. But I don't know. I think I would have liked Brock to stay in the match longer and eventually maybe bring in McIntyre late in the match and then Claymore him out. But I see why they did it the way they did it, and I don't know, man. It worked. To me, it shot Drew McIntyre to the moon, and it made everybody, I think, very interested in this Brock Lesnar Drew McIntyre match at WrestleMania. Now, if they don't let Drew McIntyre win this match, where do we go from here? And I guess we'll deal with that in weeks to come.
Well, we're banking on the fact that Vince McMahon will be embroidered in the XFL stuff during that time period.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed he allows, Triple H to do some more stuff because again, we can go to NXT and I love what they're doing. I mean, every week, ratings aside, I don't care. I don't care about the ratings. I don't know if I've said that before. Everyone should be watching more wrestling on Wednesday night, and I shame on everybody who doesn't get either show over 1 million viewers. But NXT has been great, and I even enjoyed AEW this week. I thought it was a decent show, and I liked it a lot better than the production nightmare that was the Cruise last few weeks. So
Yeah, I mean, you know what? For me, and I'll be honest with all the listeners out there, it wasn't a good week for me to watch too much wrestling, and I kind of went a little bit light on it. I watched a little bit of everything, but most of the time, I just kind of put it on in the background and didn't pay attention to it because I was kind of worn out after the Rumble. And there was many things I was highly critical about the Rumble with. Initially, until I heard about Edge having a 3-year contract, I was critical about the Edge stuff, because originally I'm sitting there thinking, okay, Edge is back for like, a couple matches or something like that, and I guess I just hadn't heard that he had signed for a 3-year deal till afterwards. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense now. But at the same time, I'm not going to be disingenuous to myself and say that I am super pumped that Edge is back, because I have issues with not giving the reins to the young people. Vince McMahon seems to think that there are no quote-unquote superstars in WWE. And how wrong is he? He's totally wrong. It's not your, I'm sorry, Vince, just because Triple H has all of them, that's the kind of the case, but they exist.
Yeah. Well, there's guys on the main roster that are not getting time that could be superstars. You got a guy in Sami Zayn and Cesaro, 2 guys that are barely wrestling, that are just escorting around Nakamura. That, I don't know, man. Like, if we just got behind, I think this is a Twitter thing going on right now, but if we just got behind Cesaro and pushed him to the moon as a group, don't you think he would get over? Don't you think he could be one of the top guys? Like, that guy's been overlooked for years. And then Sami Zayn isn't even wrestling, but he's probably one of the better heels they have on SmackDown right now, next to, Baron Corbin. But he's not even wrestling. He's just a voice piece. So there's guys like that. That's not even the young guys. That's the middle-aged guys, really. Then you're talking about guys like Cedric Alexander, who's not getting time. You're talking about Buddy Murphy, who's finally getting a spot that's maybe putting him over a little bit. Aleister Black, that deserves time on the TV and more feuds. That if you can get him out there, he's gonna obviously be everybody's favorite. I don't know, man. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, to allow other people to step to the top. And I've liked what they've done with Roman Reigns recently, because I feel like he wasn't in the main event a lot. He was kind of the second thought, and now they've pushed him back into the main event. And they're not even dealing with a title with Roman Reigns. They're just having him be in the main event with Baron Corbin, which I was okay with for a little while, but now it's like, all right, if you're going to feud with somebody and not be about the title, you can't be the main event. You got to be the middle of the show or something. And I'm fine with that, because Baron Corbin's a good character, because Roman Reigns is a good soldier, and he's putting over people, and he's giving other people the time to main event, but now he's taking it away again. And that was the issue in the past with Roman Reigns, I think.
Well, it's time.
Everybody was against Roman Reigns, right? Because he was taking people's time away.
Well, it's time, though, isn't it? Isn't it time for Roman Reigns to go after the Fiend?
I don't want it. I don't think anybody I would rather see the Undertaker come back and take on the Fiend. And we talked about this at Rumble, and it makes all the sense in the world. I'd rather see Undertaker Fiend at WrestleMania and do the true passing of the torch that they should have did years ago for Undertaker to the Fiend. That is what we need to see at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Not Roman Reigns.
But I still don't like that title, man. I still don't like that title on him, and I never will. I've come to grips with it. But having the title on the Fiend, it was a mistake. It's still been a mistake.
100%. 100% a mistake, and it's honestly taken away from the Universal title. I don't think anybody... Do we care about either championship? I think right now, does any of the belts on Raw or SmackDown mean anything?
I think you've only recaptured basically Brock's title at this point. I think that after the Rumble, you care about that again. I don't know
Yeah.
that there's any reason to care about either of the women's championships because I haven't been doing anything with them. You don't care about the women's tag team titles. I don't care about the Intercontinental Championship because, quite frankly, what the hell are you doing with it? Like, why are you putting it on Strowman? So Strowman can go into Super Showdown and be like, "Rah, big. Who am I gonna fight?"
Big.
I mean, is that not the case?
That's exactly what they're gonna do.
It's awful. It's awful. So wait a second. So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna let old hometown boy Super Showdown take the title off of Braun Strowman? Is that what they're gonna do?
Mansoor?
Yeah.
No way.
Are you sure?
That's unbelievable. Like
I know
like
it's
not
it's,
like
it's a house
if
show.
the word unbelievable has Chuck uses it. Unbelievable, like not believable.
It's a house show. We don't have a match card for that yet. I wouldn't be surprised.
They should not change titles on that ever.
And
Those people
know, if Mansoor is put up against Braun Strowman, you know he's gonna win.
No, I think he'd just get really close and then still lose. And then like Braun will like shake his hand and raise his hand at the end. I think
Maybe.
that's the gimmick. That please be the be the
Well,
better
I think
gimmick.
that's the match. They haven't announced anything yet, but I think that's the match.
Yeah. So I got a gripe about AEW, and it's this whole Butcher and Blade thing. And it has to do with MJF, and it has to do with I like how he's paying people. I love the promos. Like the promo of him like going into the butcher shop and they're down there like with tons of hanging meat and stuff. It was cool. And he pays them off and it says the Young Bucks on the envelope, and as they turn the camera, they go from in their butcher like uniform to in their wrestling gear. Great promo. Well done production. So then they have a match with the Young Bucks and they lose.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
And I feel like they continue to lose. Like they're using the Butcher and Blade as like these really mean guys, and they keep losing, and it's like they don't feel like they don't feel like they have any power really. They're just these jobbers essentially. Like he tried to make it be like, this is what I paid you for after he starts beating them up after the fact, but they still got their asses handed to them by the Elite. So it's like, what's the deal? Are these people supposed to be like really badass, or are they just jobbers? And I think it's a detriment to the tag division because you have a tag team that could be interesting and you're kind of burying them. And again, I feel like I don't like the way they're using the Young Bucks, and I don't like what they're doing in the tag division right now.
I don't know. The problem is there's so much tag division. They're doing a lot of stuff all at once throughout the tag division. So while I agree with the Butcher and the Blade, I don't know. There's other things that they're doing. Like, I don't hate what they're doing with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page.
I mean, we know where we're getting to, but at least it's interesting as we get there.
Yeah, like I almost like really enjoyed that spot where like Page like comes to the ring and then he hands I think it was Matt. He like hands
Hold
Matt the
my
beer,
beer.
and then he does the buckshot lariat. It looked great.
Yeah, that was a good spot.
So I don't know that I mind that. I mean, like, and I, you know, I have total faith in Kenny Omega and any storyline that he's connected to. But I definitely agree with the Young Bucks. Like, I don't know what the end game is, but you can't. If you bring the Butcher and the Blade in, you have to make them look strong. Period.
But they've never looked strong.
No. Not at all. And
Like,
if they're not going to
never.
look, and if they're not going to look strong in the ring, then the promo should have gone, here, I pay you the money, and then they attack them backstage.
Yeah.
Or they
There's
attack
no-
one of them. They don't even attack both of them. They attack one of them.
Or lose the match via DQ because you just grab a chair and just start beating the Young Bucks with chairs.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like taking the L, like the straight L, and then jumping the Young Bucks after the match, but then still everybody getting the best, you know, the Elite getting the best of them. I don't understand it. Like, I don't know where we're going.
It's them trying to do the same thing that every other wrestling promotion does, which is, how can we put everybody over all at the same time? And sometimes you just can't do that.
See, but I was giving the Young Bucks credit for a while there because they were not putting themselves over as like the top tag team. They were letting the other tag SCU, they were letting, you know, other, you know, even Private Party they put over. They were letting other tag teams get over, which was great. I think that was the right thing to do. But now it's like we're going the opposite direction. Now the Young Bucks are beating everybody again.
Yeah.
I guess the end game is taking on Paige and Omega, and maybe that's when Paige turns on Omega.
I think that's interesting enough story. I mean, the problem is that you know, the honeymoon's over, right? And so I think that certain groups and certain tag teams have lost, you know, the spice. So I feel like SCU has lost some of its spice, and Jurassic Express has lost some of its spice, and I don't know that Dark Order ever really had it, but they're still trying to get there.
See, I like Dark Order. I think they're playing the slow game, and I think they're the most interesting tag team they have right now. Because you don't know who the leader is, you know, the Exalted One. You have them kind of coming out and just saying stuff to, is it SCU they're feuding with right now? Did they come out?
Yeah, they're trying to, they're with Christopher Daniels and stuff like that.
Right.
They're always talking to him.
And well, you know what? As I talk through that, couldn't just Christopher Daniels be the Exalted One?
He is the Exalted One.
Yeah, that makes
it's
sense.
It's not that clever.
Yeah. As I talk through that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, they're trying to play it hard like he's not, but it's very clear that he is.
Now, I wish they had somebody else to surprise us, because that'd be really good. But
it could be.
Yeah, but again, I still find that interesting. I still find that slow game interesting. They're not wrestling all the time. They have a few matches on Dark. I think they're the most interesting tag team story they have right now. I don't know. There's other tag teams that I feel like, you know, Evans and Helico, I feel like, are getting the short end of the stick. They're a great tag team. They're fun to watch. Private Party is getting squashed again. You know, to your point, maybe there's just too many tag teams, and, you know, at least we're not seeing the Lucha Brothers, which I think is the right thing to do. Take them away for a while, but they're coming back next week, right? Because the Lucha Brothers are tagging with who they tagging with? There's a 4-man tag coming up next week. I don't know, man. Like, make them singles wrestlers already. Those two are better as singles wrestlers. I've never gotten them as a tag team.
Well, the good news, bad news is that next week we're getting Yuka Sakazaki, I'm sure I butchered her name. The bad news is she's fighting Britt Baker.
Yes. If Yuka puts over Britt, I'll be like, Britt needs to lose. Yuka needs to win that match. Britt could still continue this heel turn by losing next week. But again,
I don't think that's going to happen.
Point earlier in the podcast, she's not great on the mic. I think this week was actually a better promo than the one on the boat, but it's still just rough.
It's like there's no clear direction. Like, where do you push Britt Baker? It is because I actually feel like she actually works better as a face than a heel. And so I understand why they're pushing her heel, because they don't think she's working as a face, but she's not going to work as a heel for the same reason she doesn't work as a face. She just needs to wrestle a lot more. Get the practice in. Don't push her so hard.
Who's your faces in the women's division?
Big Swole.
Big Swole and all the Japanese wrestlers? Is that where we're going with that?
Statlander, I think, would be considered a face.
I forgot about her. Like I legitimately forgot that she was in the women's division for a second because I didn't even know what was going on. We had one women's division match this week.
I think that's it, really, though. So, yeah, I mean, definitely Riho, although they've teased her going heel-ish. Hikaru Shida is definitely a face.
Yeah.
Statlander's a face. Yeah, I mean, Swole's a face. Yeah, I mean, that's about it.
Swole, man?
Well, that's about it. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. I'm just talking through it in my head. But I think that's about it. Like about 4 or 5 of them.
And then a bunch of heels. Everybody else is a heel.
Yeah,
so I don't know how
Gibbs,
you make a women's division that way.
No. You know what? Sadie Gibbs, she's a face, and Shauna's a face. So they've got plenty. They just don't use them.
They don't use any of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's the problem with the women's division in AEW. Like, they even have some talented people, but you're pushing the one that's not good. It makes no sense. It's like, I mean, give her time.
She'd be fine as a mid card. Yeah, give her time. Yeah, great, but she's not there, and you're pushing her to the moon as the first person who signed, and I don't know. She's just not showing it to me. Maybe she just hasn't had her time to shine, but I haven't seen it in the ring at all. At all.
It feels weird to me, and I'm switching gears here to NXT. It feels weird to me to be critical of the Broserweights, but I just really hate that concept, and we talk about it all the time. Here we're going to take 2 great singles wrestlers and turn them into a tag team. Like, why? Why are you having them win the Dusty Rhodes Classic? I mean,
that's what they do. That's what they do for all the Dusty Rhodes Classic winners.
It's silly. You're using a tag team tournament to put over singles wrestlers. Why?
But I agree. But it's worked.
I disagree with myself too. Like, I mean, that's where I'm coming at. Like, I'm being critical of it because I don't like that the concept feels like just this constructed model that we use all the time in WWE, and it's one of those short-term models. It works in the short term. Does it work in the long term?
Well, so I'm rolling through the winners in the past. So the winners in the past of the Dusty Rhodes Classic, the first one was Finn Balor, Samoa Joe. So obviously it put those two even further over than they already were. But they wrestled. The point to make here is they wrestled Baron Corbin and Rhino. So again, 4 guys, minus Rhino, that I think it helped put over. Then you go to the next year and it's like, okay, we're going to actually do tag teams, because they actually did tag teams, because it was TM61 and the Authors of Pain, and the Authors of Pain won.
God, I miss TM61. They were a cool tag team.
They were. Then the following year, it's Authors of Pain, Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong. There was an end to that. Like, there's a reason why the Undisputed Era won, right? Because Roderick Strong turned, which worked out great.
Yeah.
So we were kind of trending towards tag teams again. And then this year they go back to this Broserweight thing, right?
I would have been
fine.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I skipped Aleister Black and Ricochet. Aleister Black and Ricochet, there was a reason for that, right? They wanted to put over Aleister Black and Ricochet, and it worked because those guys ended up on the main show and got way over.
They were on the main show at the same time, weren't they? Were on the main show at the same time.
Right. And we loved it. We loved them.
I love them on Raw. I don't know that I love them getting pushed through the Dusty Rhodes Classic. I disagree. I don't think they needed. They needed the exposure. They didn't need to win.
This is the thing, like, and I think we're getting to this point. We don't like it, but you can't deny that it kind of worked. I don't know where the Broserweights are going to end up. I don't know how this is going to end and if it's going to put them into the spotlight the way the other matches have, the other years past of the Dusty Classic. But as much as we don't like it, doesn't it kind of work? Like, hasn't it putting guys over?
Well, here's my question for you, and I don't know. It's kind of a rhetorical question. I don't know that this has a good answer, but we say that a lot. We say stuff like, and I've even said that before, like, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it doesn't work. But at the same time, I think to myself, but how often does WWE use that as an excuse for bad writing? Just because something works doesn't mean it's good writing. Yeah, exactly. It's like, so they love to do all this flash of the pan stuff where you're not really writing stories. You're letting the charisma of the wrestlers carry the stories. And I guess my thought process to that is, well, I guess it's the only medium where you can actually write that way. Because if you tried to make a movie that way, it would fucking suck. If you tried to do a play that way, it wouldn't work. You know, I mean, any way you think of it, like, wrestling is the only medium in which that works. And still, I don't think that's the ideal way of writing it. So my question is, why do any of the writers in WWE actually have gainful employment?
Yeah, I think we ask ourselves that weekly.
Yeah, but see, I fucking joke about that all the time. I'm not even joking. I'm really like, again, and I'm pulling back to that bigger picture of me trying to understand. I don't understand WWE anymore. Like, main card WWE, it just doesn't make any sense to me. NXT makes sense. AEW, even though they do missteps, the stories at least make sense. They're written like stories. NXT stories are written like stories. What are WWE? What is the hell is WWE? Like, none of the stuff makes sense.
Yeah,
and they love to do stall. They love to do stall stuff. So it's like, okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write you one chapter of a book, and here I want you to read that chapter. Oh, okay. Did you read the chapter? Okay. Did you like it? Oh yeah, you kind of like it. Okay. So for the next 5 weeks, I'm just going to remind you of that chapter for 5 weeks. I'm not going to give you any more story. Just remind you of that chapter. Oh, week 5. Oh, you're finally starting to hate that chapter. Okay, now I'll give you chapter 2. Now I'll give you chapter 2. Doesn't make any sense.
I like your book voice. I think I was well done.
I'm a professional non-paid actor.
Professional non-paid actor.
Yes.
Well, so what was good this week? I mean, I know you didn't watch a lot, but like, was there anything that you're looking forward to after this week? Like, after what you saw happen this week? I know you kind of just read a little bit and watched a little bit of clips here and there.
Well, I mean, I watched all of Raw. I did not watch NXT because I'll watch it with Chaz and Sarah at some point. Probably next week. We'll be doing a little catch up. And then I watched, I had AEW on in the background and I had SmackDown on in the background. I don't know. I mean, like, what the things that are working, I think the stories, even with your criticisms, and I don't necessarily disagree, like with AEW, like, I agree with your criticisms. That being said, even with those criticisms, the stories are still a little bit interesting. You know, I mean, even the Young Bucks stuff, it's still kind of interesting. So it hasn't totally lost me. I agree with you. I think they're misusing the Butcher and the Blade. I think they're misusing the Young Bucks a little bit, but I still think it's interesting. And my only issue with it, and I do this critique of WWE all the time, so I have to do it for AEW, is, man, this Cody storyline's great. It's really good, but that's the problem. It's like become this weird single focus where we have two storylines, and those storylines are Cody versus MJF and Jericho versus Moxley. It's like, that's 1A and 1B. And we're really putting a whole lot of effort into both of those, and then all the other ones just, I don't know. It doesn't feel like they're putting enough into some of them, especially in the women's division. It doesn't feel like they're putting anything into the women's division. And if you putting anything into the women's division and you're telling me that the result of that is the Britt Baker, oh yeah, we're doing the Britt Baker stuff. Okay, all right, okay. All right, agree to disagree. But other than that, like, okay, so what's good? McIntyre's good. I don't think you need to put him over anymore, but he's good. Flair's good. I don't think you need to put her over anymore, but she's good. I thought Humberto Carrillo kind of turning heel was interesting. My only thing with that is, like, so Andrade's suspended, right? Isn't that what you had tweeted out? So with him being suspended, are they just taking Humberto Carrillo and turning him into Andrade? I mean, is that going to be that's going to be the thing that has Vega suddenly walking out with Humberto? The fact that Andrade got suspended?
But it's only 30 days, right? It's his first offense.
Do we know what he got suspended for? What was the wellness policy violation?
I haven't read into it yet. It's only 30 days. It's his first offense, so he's going to be gone for a month. But you can write him off of TV for a month very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but through reading, I mean, okay, so Raw, I think the best thing is Orton Edge. NXT, I think the best thing is probably Dijakovic. He's kind of very good. AEW, I would say my favorite part of it was probably Cody fighting Kip Sabian, and kind of like how good of a job he did through that match. And by the end of the match, when he did like the crossroad 3 times and the announcers kind of putting him over, I think they just did a really good job of prepping you for this match that's coming up. And I think it was also important, the balance act, where it's like, so Cody is having this very successful moment on AEW because next week it's not going to be quite this successful when he's getting lashed.
It's a weird angle.
It's a weird angle.
Like, just like there's no, like, he's just getting lashed. He didn't lose anything. He's doing that so that he can.
It gets him over.
Another match.
Yeah, I mean, it's him getting lashed gets him like so over. It's ridiculous, though. It will work. And the question is, how hardcore are they going with the lashing? Are they truly going Tommy Dreamer ECW type lashing? I mean,
there's a lot of throwback to their writing, isn't there? Like, there's a lot of throwback, but I mean,
they throw back to the
there's
right
a lot
stuff,
of imitation. Yeah, how about the Janela spot where he peeks his head up from
good.
From the crowd
for the kiss though, and they both kiss
double
him.
Kiss.
Yeah,
that was funny.
It's enjoyable stuff. Again, yeah, I mean, they've got like little storylines. I guess I'm wrong. They got little storylines all over the place, and I guess they're kind of working. And I really like Darby Allin. I was watching him wrestle this week, and I just really enjoy him. He's just a really fun wrestler. Cool guy.
What about Pirate Moxley?
Pirate Moxley is that's an interesting angle. I had heard though that the whole stabbing of the eye thing, they had to ask the network for permission to do that.
Because it was too gruesome.
I had read it was like they had talked to Tony Khan, and he was talking about 2 angles in particular, or 2 little spots that he had to ask permission from the network to do. The first one was the eye gouge with the spike, and the other one was MJF being able to wear the shirt that said "I banged Dallas's daughter." So they had to get permission for both of those.
That's funny because those are two very different things to get permission for.
Yeah, true. And then I can't give you anything good though for SmackDown. even with my boy Morrison winning with Miz, I hate that. Like
I didn't understand that match.
It's the short term, right? It's the short term. You have to have Miz and Morrison, and they're going to beat the New Day, and they're going to become the tag champions, so that you build for the split.
But why did you even have to have that match?
I
tweeted out, like, anybody who thought anyone other than Miz and Morrison were winning that match obviously has no idea what wrestling is. They don't understand.
Well, they don't understand the writing, yeah.
How many times has Morrison pinned one of the New Day? Like, obviously they should get the number one contender. They should get the title shot. They've been beating the New Day. Why the Lucha House Party, Heavy Machinery, or Revival are even folded into this storyline right now made no sense to me. It was just another way to put down the Revival, put down Heavy Machinery, and whatever. Lucha House Party are jobbers. They do their part. But, like, it didn't make sense to have the other two in there. If you were going to have a number one contenders match, just have it be the New Day versus Miz and Morrison for a chance for a later match at the title or something, you know? Like, if they're able to beat the New Day, they get a title match. It didn't make sense. And then again, the Fire and Desire, getting buried and buried and buried and buried and buried for this endless Heavy Machinery Otis Mandy Rose storyline that seems to be just going nowhere, which we loved at first, loved the spot in the Rumble, but I don't know, man. Like, where are we going with it? Is it ultimately just Otis is going to go be a singles wrestler?
SmackDown was really bad. SmackDown was like it was.
I know. I'm just rolling down the badness of it.
It really, like, I do like the write ups for the listeners. I do like the write ups of like everything that happened, so that we have lists here to remember, because there's so much wrestling to watch. And SmackDown is just an abysmal list. It just sucks all the way through.
You're welcome, Fox. You're welcome.
So what are you doing, Fox? Huh? What are you doing? I don't know.
Was the Fiend even on the show?
I'm not sure.
I honestly didn't watch. I'd have to go back and watch. I honestly didn't watch because I saw the lineup and I said, "I've seen this match. I've seen this match.
I didn't read anything about the Fiend. So I'm not sure. Again, I feel like it's because it's WrestleMania season. And, the rumors from a long, long time ago was that it was going to be Roman Reigns versus The Fiend. And, I think that's probably going to be the case, unless they really just want Daniel Bryan to go up against him again. But I don't know. Again, you can't win with The Fiend. As much as everybody likes The Fiend, I just hope that everybody who likes The Fiend, myself included, understand that The Fiend is just a no-win angle. There's no way you backed yourself into a corner so hard. And it was a wide corner when he didn't have the title, but now that he's got the title, it's a very narrow corner.
Yeah, there's only one way out, and unfortunately, it seems like it's Roman Reigns.
It doesn't need to be that. I mean, ideally, if they wanted to get the title off of him, it would be getting the Demon to take it off of him. But the problem is Finn Balor is doing his thing in NXT,
which is working.
It's working. It's because it's NXT. Everything works in NXT.
Yes.
Kind of. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know that Chelsea Green.
Give it time.
And Carter. Time. Yeah. I mean, there's still that side of NXT that's still developmental. So it's really like these really great matches with a couple really bad matches squeezed in between.
Tegan Nox looked good this week. I like the Tegan Nox Dakota Kai match. I thought they both looked better than they have in the past this week.
I'm a little confused as to why they had a match. I was thinking that they were doing all the build to have a pay-per-view match.
They will. It's going to be a stipulation pay-per-view match. So they're going to have regular matches to eventually have a stipulation match, because the only way one's beating the other is with some kind of apparatus. It'll be like a knee brace on a pole match or something. I don't know.
Everything's always got to be on a pole.
It's the easiest way to put things up in the air.
If Christopher had his own match, he could pick any match in the world. I guarantee you it would be a snow cone on a pole match.
Oh. throwback to the snow cone. That damn ice cream truck in Houston did not have snow cones.
You want to talk about
Otherwise,
disappointment?
I would have had snow.
We're going to go disappointment to not disappointment. And this has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling other than the fact that we were in Houston to watch wrestling. Correct. We go to this ramen place, and we're all excited about going to this ramen place. And
love ramen.
Our friend Christopher has a shellfish allergy. So we get in there, and he's kind of looking through, and I notice he's not really reading because he hasn't said anything. He's just like looking at pictures, looking at the amazing stuff. And I go, did you notice the menu says like scallops all over it? And he's like, what? I said, it says allergies to scallops and stuff like that, which I think that's the thing, right? That's the thing that you're most allergic to.
It's one of my allergies. I don't know if it's most. I mean, you're allergic. That's it. You're allergic to shellfish. You're allergic.
So,
but yes, I can't eat scallops.
We almost had to leave, but luckily, the waitress was able to be like, no, we can make it this way. We can make it vegan.
I got a vegan ramen bowl, which I'm sure was not anywhere near as good as what the ramen the boys were eating, but at least she saved me that I could sit there and eat a lovely vegan bowl of ramen with an egg. I still got an egg in it. She was able to put that in there for me.
Yeah, it was a good place, but no spicy pork ramen for Christopher. So we're gonna have to amend. We're gonna have to amend that. We're gonna have to go eat ramen at some point.
Agreed.
And get you some spicy pork ramen.
Agreed. But I got some good food the next night, so don't worry, everyone. We were able to get back out and have some banh mi sandwiches and some pho
on Vietnamese New Year. which we did not know, and we're sitting in the restaurant. We're like, there's all these people out in front of the restaurant, like, and they've got all these dragon costumes, and we're like, what the heck is this? And so it's like
really cool pants too. We all wanted the pants.
we were selfishly more afraid that they were getting ready to go into the restaurant and eat, so we like rushed by them real quick. So
quick, we gotta get in.
We gotta get in and sit down. And we sat down and we all order, and then the restaurant stops, and this group starts banging on their drums and stuff, and they're going around and they're celebrating, Vietnamese New Year or whatever, and it was wild. It was wild. I think I tweeted out a video of it, like people in the dragon. It was wild. So
it was pretty cool. They were like jumping on each other's shoulders and grabbing envelopes of money and stuff. But we had to sit there and not get food for a while, but it was worth it. It was definitely an experience, and good food, good fun. And it was fun to watch people like turn into dragons and eat envelopes from the ceiling.
And it was fun to go to the Rumble. I had a good time with you guys. It was a fun trip, but as we talked about earlier, I think my stance on it at this point is, if the Rumble's going to be 40,000 people, I'm not interested in going anymore.
That's the rumor, right? I think what we've read is that it's possibly going to be in Seattle next year at the baseball stadium. And I agree. I'm really just not into baseball stadium pay-per-views. If I'm going to go, I'd rather go to a smaller venue. So it might be a situation where the Bald Monkeys are going to have to amend their Royal Rumble trip that they do every year. We might have to see what other pay-per-view is going to be in a regular size arena, because we just dig those more. And if we can get a takeover out of it, I mean, Worlds Collide was great, and we got, as we talked about last week, we got upgraded, which was great. But I'd rather do a takeover and a smaller venue WWE main card pay-per-view than this big elaborate baseball stadium. Though if you were there, you may have found a whole bunch of Bald Monkeys business cards just laying around in cup holders, because we were littering that place with them.
I didn't even talk about the bathroom situation in that place.
Oh, if you want to hear Jimmy gripe, you're about to, because he has a bathroom issue coming real soon.
I know we're getting to the end of the podcast here, but let me talk to you
End
about
it strong. Go for it.
Let me talk to you about the logic behind a baseball stadium and the bathroom capacity that they have in a baseball stadium. The idea with a baseball game, for any of you who do not watch baseball, is it's cut into multiple innings, and because of that, and because innings are, kind of different lengths depending on how well a baseball team is playing, it basically makes it so that there's no set time where it's like, you know what, this is the set time where everybody needs to go to the bathroom, right? It just doesn't happen. You just have kind of this like constant flow of people coming in and out of bathrooms at a baseball stadium. Well, when you put something like a Rumble and then you go into the Women's Royal Rumble, the second that match ended, I feel like half the stadium got up and went to the bathroom. So the other side of this is, I hate to say it, but there's a lot more men's fans than women's fans. Sorry, women, but it's true. The men's bathrooms, there was like 4 big bathrooms through that lower bowl. It probably took people 30 minutes to cycle through those things. It was insanity. You would get up there and there were these huge lines that were wrapping around. You'd think, is that for food? Nope, that's to go to the bathroom. It was not ideal at all. So this is an issue that I have with baseball stadiums being used on top of that, because with a basketball arena or a football stadium, they have that in mind. There are bathrooms all over the place, specifically for that purpose. I don't know. I mean, it was wild. So between that and the fact that, where we're sitting during the Rumble, like, we get to hear music and see the names of people, but we don't actually get to see them walk in. Like those two, man, it really killed it for me for that big setup. I'd much rather be in like an arena or coliseum where, yeah, you're sitting up pretty high, but you can look down. You can anywhere you're sitting other than like the floor, you're going to be able to see that person walking down the ramp.
Yeah, it was just poorly done when it comes to being able to see what was going on. I think that's the biggest argument.
And peeing.
Put the things on the screen and peeing. But hey, we ultimately made the decision at the end of the Men's Royal Rumble that no other surprises were about to happen, and we made a run for it. And it was a great moment. Just put it that way.
Oh man, good times. Well, our journey is over. Back from Houston, finally did this podcast. The audio level should be much better this time. Apologies again. It's been our hour and 30. We appreciate anybody who stuck through us through that last one and is listening to this one. And I hope that you like and subscribe and share with people. Enjoy the rest of the wrestling community too. They're really great. A lot of good content out there. But before we leave, Christopher, give me some hot take. Give me any hot take.
So I've been thinking about this actually for a little while now, but let's give it up for Marty Scurll and what he's been doing with NWA and Ring of Honor. And we got some really interesting angles coming with him bringing those two shows together. I'll point out 2 things that are about to happen. So NWA is going to have a championship match with Nick Aldis and Marty Scurll, and Aldis put up the challenge to Marty that he's big money Marty now with his new contract, and if he really wants a title shot against Aldis, if he loses, he has to pay back everyone's ticket who's in the arena that night for that match, which I think is just freaking genius. Like, what an angle, how interesting that is, because you go, oh, okay, well, there's no way he's gonna lose, he has to win, but what if he doesn't? What if they actually go for it and just say, no, he's gonna lose, and everyone's gonna basically watch a show for free? Like, that would be just super interesting and something that I think would make big headlines. So that's part 1 that's going on in NWA. And then you talk about Ring of Honor, and they're having Supercard of Honor in Lakeland, Florida coming up. And Marty went and challenged Jay White, which Jay White's been really big lately. Another like dream match coming up, and if you look at the card for Super Card of Honor up and down, it's starting to become like a really big event, a big match where you're bringing a couple of different wrestling divisions together. And it's something that I'm even talking to the group about like, man, I kind of want to go to this thing.
Will Ospreay's in it, right?
Will Ospreay's in it. Like, when else are you going to be able to see Will Ospreay? So like, this is something within reason that I'm like, hey, Jimmy, we might want to go to this, because we talk about being able to go see Kenny Omega live, like something we never thought we'd be able to do without being in Japan. You know, we get to see these big name wrestlers that are the greatest wrestlers in the world live, and it's something that you could remember. So really, I'm impressed with what Marty's doing. He's bringing the smaller independents together, and I'm getting excited about it more than I'm getting excited about the bigger cards, the AEWs and the WWEs. So kudos to Marty, and he's really bringing independent wrestling back up again after Triple H kind of stole it all and brought it into NXT.
And for me, my hot take will be stating one fact for the masses of people to understand. And I think this was mentioned in a tweet once before on my Twitter, but it's important for everybody to know that single stuffed Oreos are much better than double stuffed Oreos.
Oh, I hate
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
That's been our time. We appreciate you listening to us this week. We lost Chuckles about halfway through, but me and Christopher finished it strong. So everybody have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.